Okay, all right. Sorry for the long pause there, but I guess we've been recording for half a minute now, but it looked like I was still in the loading screen. Oh dear, it looks like we're having a little bit of a lag issue. Aha! We already have our first member of our merry band to show up. We got Gabriel. Hello there, Gabriel. Gabriel says, "Hey, Professor." Hello there, Gabriel. This Gabriel is going to be the last live stream of the semester. Am I coming in clearly? We are having a video lag right now, but how's the audio? Let me type this in. Let's see. How? Okay. How am I coming in? Oh, great. How am I coming in? There's a video lag, but is there an audio lag as well? Wait until it finished typing what I just said. Okay, it looks like we might have some fluidity back in the camera. How am I coming in right now? Am I coming in clearly? The picture is coming in more clearly. How's the audio? Can you hear what I'm saying? Hi there, Tim. Okay. Okay, Gabriel says crystal clear, a little laggy, but your voice is good. The audio sounds really good. Just a little lag is all. I'm coming in clearly now. Yeah, it looks like it's moving as it should right now. I'm watching the timer, and the timer had paused at 1:30 for over 1:30. So it's moving. It's chugging along now. So I think we are over the initial beginning of recording hiccups. So now we can begin in earnest. Say we got Tim, we got Gabriel, we got a third member in the chat right now. If they would be so good to say hello, that would be delightful. Okay, so how are you guys doing? How are you doing, Gabriel? How are you doing, Tim? It's going to be the last live chat of the semester. We're going to be taking care of end of semester business right now. Aha, Tony is here. Hello, Tony. How are you doing? Got Tony here. Antonio Leon. Okay. All right, very good. As a matter of fact, I think that might be the... Oh, let me check on that. I think you are the only Tony Antonio I have in my classes this semester. I figured it was you because I don't know who else it would be. No, I do have an Anthony Valdez in my ethics class. But between you and he, I think you're my only other Antonio. Okay. Oh, Gabriel says he's on his way to a doctor's appointment 15. Okay, well, we'll miss you, Gabriel, when you go. Hope everything's going to be okay. Yeah, I've got a doctor's appointment for this Friday as well. Going to check in on a little skin condition of mine. Okay, doing good. Just Tim says he's doing good. Just working on my paper. Did you get my email for quiz 4? Let me go. I think I saw you when I did my email when I sent out my email. Let's see here. I think I saw your email in there. Let me check. Going over to the Gmail account back over there. Just double check. I'm pretty sure I saw your name there, but I want to make sure I can give you confirmation on that. I want to give you, positive confirmation that I got it. Pretty sure you're there, but we're just double checking just so you can rest easy. All right, Gmail, of course, needs a lot of time to load while I've got a live stream going on right now. Let's see here. It's establishing a secure connection. Let's see here. Yeah, I think my laptop's slowing down. I think it's finally showing some signs of age, which sucks because I've spent so many hours building up my music library on here. If I were to get another computer, I hope there's a way I can transfer everything over on MusicBee. Because I've got a ridiculous amount of stuff in my music library. Yes, Tim. Yes, it says. Okay, yes, Tim. I see that your email has been sent to me. Okay. All right, so that's confirmation for you, Tim. I did get your email for quiz 4. Okay, Willie's here. It's Willie Paz. Hello there, Willie. Okay. Tony says, doing great, Professor. How are you doing? And Tony, I did see, I was just over in my Gmail inbox. I did see your emails as well. So say when the stream is over with, I'll go over and take care of the grade for you for those things. Okay. Oh, you're welcome, Tim. I'm very, very glad I might be of help. Quick question. Does the pass, no pass selection affect my transcript by any chance? Say, this is something I never really got a clear answer about. I think, it's what would happen is that since I would be kind of like putting in, I would be putting in a letter grade. I think if you were to do pass, no pass, I would be putting in a letter grade anyway, that would determine, say, oh, I got a fly buzzing around me, which would determine, say, whether you have, if you got a pass grade, that's anything that's a C or above. So if I put in for your grade, say, a B, that's a pass grade, and it would also adjust your overall transcript score. But the thing is, I'm not too sure about that. I think what you want to happen is if you are looking at preparing transcripts to be sent over this, for a school, if you're transferring over to university or something like that, for this semester, what you want to do is you want to have kind of like a letter grade on there. That's at least a clearer indication to the schools of how well you did the previous semester. But then again, if you were to transfer sometime down the pipe and you had a pass, no pass on there, say, I think that whatever I would put in my end would still adjust your overall score. So if I put in for you a B grade, that would show up as a pass in your grades, and it would adjust your overall transcript score accordingly. So it's just kind of like, for better transparency for your transcripts. It's good to have the letter grades there, but they would still be able to see by your overall transcripts, by your overall grade score, say how well you have been doing over the semester. Tim says, I can transfer my music using an exterior hard drive. Well, that's good. That's good. Hopefully, it would also transfer the files that I have, that I have I've got images associated with each music file, so that it's easier for me to organize it. Because a lot of things I just rip right off of YouTube, because who doesn't? And so it's got to have that kind of like picture file with it, so I know which album it comes from. Okay. Gabriel says, since I'm still going to go to Fulton College next semester, will the pass no pass selection be okay? Yes, I think it would be okay. I think it would be okay, Gabriel. Hold on. Let's see, although, Gabriel, I don't think you really need to be that worried about what letter grade you will get, if you get me. As long as you're able to turn in, say, the, as long as your group is able to turn in the group project, and as long as you turn in a good final exam, I don't think you have anything to worry about. And you may want to do the letter grade instead. Entirely up to you, but I'm just telling you, you may want to consider that. Okay. I was just looking at your grades right now, and you're not suffering. Yeah, hopefully you're not embarrassed me saying that over the live stream, but your grades are not suffering right now. I will not tell you specifically what you have, but you are not in any trouble. Okay. So any other questions about, say, end of the semester stuff, about transcripts or anything like that? I'll answer it as best I can, but I think a lot of us are still rather unclear as to what these things are. The thing is, we need to be kind of like, we need to be in the same room with the people who have set these things up, and we're rarely in the same room with these people. Try, if you've already selected, Gabriel, if you've already selected to do pass, no pass, try setting it back and see what happens. Says, from what counselors have told me, and thank you, Tim, for talking to counselors. From what counselors have told me, the GPA is unaffected by pass, no pass. It just verifies that you earn the credit for the class. Okay. That sounds good. That's exactly what I hoped it would be. That the GPA would kind of like it wouldn't be like you if you got a pass, that it would somehow kind of like not include the information needed in order to keep your GPA up or to actually advance it. So it's good to know that, say, it's not going to be it's not going to hurt you to do pass no pass for your GPA if you're looking at say transcripts. If you're looking at, say, of how people are going to be looking at your transcript scores. Yeah, I say for the majority of the people in my classes who have been turning the work in, people who have been turning the work in my classes are doing a good job. If you have not been turning the work in, if you've not been turning in quizzes, if you have not been turning in papers, if you have not been turning in exams, midterms, and whatnot, if you are lacking in those things, then you're in trouble. But if you have been turning in the work, turning in quizzes, tests, assignments, and so on, if you have been doing those things, you do not have to worry about your letter grade. I guarantee you, everyone who has been turning the work in, been getting grades back from me, I guarantee you, no one right now who has been doing those things has anything lower than a B in the class. No one has anything lower than a B in the class if you've been turning the work in. That's to say, if you turn the quizzes in, and if you've turned the assignments in, if you've done the midterm, if you've done all those things, you have at least a B in the class. So if you've been doing those things, you do not have to worry so much about, say, pass, no pass, or letter grades. You can still do it, of course, that's your right. But if you do want to have that letter score, you may not be disappointed in what you get. Okay, Justin says, yeah, if I recall, pass no pass isn't recorded any differently on transcripts. That was my understanding too, so that's a good thing. This is a good thing. All right, but like I said, if you have been consistently turning the work in, say and this is not me kind of like fudging the records or anything like that. I'm looking at the people who I have in my records here who have been, say, turning the work in. They're not missing assignments, quizzes, the midterm, and whatnot. Where I don't see a lot of blank spaces on here. Everyone who's gotten everything in has a B or better. If you're missing an assignment or if you're missing a quiz, that might not affect you too much. But if you've got like an assignment and a quiz missing, that is going to affect your grade. If you've got, say, an assignment and 2 quizzes missing, that is definitely going to affect your grade. But if you've been turning the work in and you have everything in, you've got a B or above. That's not me fudging the records. That's just how according to, just by adjusting all the scores on here, adjusting it to, to how things are right now, because of course we still have those 2 big things left. That's the the end of the semester project for both classes, the Philosophy of Ethics report for the ethics class, and the group project report for the critical thinking class, and the final exam for both classes. If those are going to be missing, that is going to severely affect your score. But right now, if you are confident that you're going to get those projects in, and if you're confident in how you will do the final exam, you can and if you have been turning the work in, and if you don't have like a lot of missing things right now, know that you do have at least a B, and it can be more than a B. It's at least a B. It can be more than a B. So hopefully I'm being clear about that. Let me just kind of like explain it one more time, just to make sure that everyone is absolutely crystal clear on this. If you do not have, say, a lot of missing stuff, if you've been consistently turning in the quizzes, the assignments, the midterm, and whatnot, what you have right now is a B or above. If you've got a missing assignment or if you've got a missing quiz, that might not affect your grade too severely. If you have a missing assignment and a missing quiz, that might set you back a little bit. If you've got, say, a missing assignment and 2 missing quizzes, say that will affect your grade. But right now, if you've turned in everything, you have got, and I'm saying, if you've turned in everything, if there are no gaps in your grade, no gaps in your academic history with the class, no gaps in turning in, say, work that needs to be turned in, what you have right now is a B or above. Right now, you've got that. Things could change, of course, with the last 2 things you have to do for the course. Say the end of the semester project and the final. But if you're confident that you will get those things in, and remember what I said, if you get your end of the semester project into me on the due date, Thursday, get it into me sometime that day, either the group project for critical thinking or the Philosophy of Ethics project for the ethics class. If you get those into me, doesn't even matter whether it's in a perfect state or not, get in whatever you've got, whatever you have done. If you have it more done, so much the better. But whatever condition it is, as long as you get whatever you finished into me, on Thursday, guaranteed B or better grade. If you do a terrific job, if you complete the whole thing, soup to nuts, everything is done. Everything is done and done well. Of course, you're going to get better than a B grade. But if you're able to turn, say, maybe not all of it's done. Maybe you don't have the bibliography done. Maybe you don't have. Maybe it's a few sentences or so short of the full page amount or something like that. Or maybe say the argument is not as well developed or as lacking in inferential holes as possible, so you'll still get at least a B on it as long as you turn in to finished by that time. So that's at least a B. For the final exam, of course, you've got the 2 essay things that you need to write. And of course, that needs to be, say, at least 3 paragraphs long for each of those essays, at least 3 paragraphs long. And you also have the multiple choice questions. So if you feel confident, that you will be able to do those 3 paragraphs for each essay part of the final, and if you feel confident about how you would do on the multiple choice questions, consider, say, whether you want to have, say, the letter grade or the pass, no pass grade. Because the people who have been turning things in, just kind of like circle back to my original point, people have been turning things in and have no big gaps in their grade, for like missing assignments, missing quizzes, and so forth. People who don't have big gaps in them, kind of like, if it's like more than one thing. If you're missing an assignment, missing quiz, that's not too hurtful. But if you're missing 2 or more things, that's problematic. But if you've got most, if not all, of everything in, say right now you're doing fine grade-wise. So that's just to give you some information about, say, whether you want to choose the pass, no pass, or the letter grade. Because right now, again, if you've turned everything in, you have at least a B. Could be better than B. Okay. But you still have the option of doing pass, no pass if you just want to hedge your bets. Because as Tim has said and as Justin has said, it's not going to hurt your GPA. Say, it's not going to screw up your transcripts. Transcripts are going to be fine. So it's not, and by the way, this is not something that, my understanding is, it's not something that is just happening with us. Say other people are doing this as an option right now. They have to understand why it is happening because of what we're going through right now. People will look at it and understand. But the thing is, it's not supposed to kind of like have any kind of like detrimental effect on you anyway. So don't worry about it. Okay? So take the pass, no pass if you want that. Take the letter grade if you feel confident in how you'll do with the very end of the course. If you've been turning work in right now, you should be feeling pretty confident. And if you are able to get the final stuff in and you feel like you've done a good job, you have the option of doing the letter grade too. Lena May asks, can we turn the paper in early? Absolutely, you can. Several people have turned in their end of the semester projects already. I haven't had any group projects turned in early yet for the critical thinking class, but I have already had several people turn in their philosopher of ethics project. Those have been turned on already. And anytime you get it, you feel like, this is as much as I can do, given the circumstances that we're all dealing with right now. We're all dealing with a less than ideal situation right now. If you feel like this is as much as you can do, this is as much done as you can get done on time, you can turn it in. If you need an extra day, of course, ask me for the extra day. Don't just assume that you can turn it in whenever you want after the due date. But before the due date, you can turn it in anytime you want. If you say, well, I need to get this out of the way so I can work on other things, get it out of the way. Send it over to me. Send whatever you've got done over to me. Say, this is as much as I could do. You've got a B. Maybe even better than a B, depending on, say, how much I see, whether I really like what I see or not. But it will be at least a B grade. Okay. Okay, so my apologies if I'm being unclear about anything. I'm more than happy to try again if anyone wants me to give another try. Okay. Lena says, "Okay, perfect, thank you. You're welcome, Lena. Anytime anyone got any questions. And I'm still open to do private online chats with anyone if anyone wants to do that." Okay. Anyone have any other questions about, say, the final exam, about grades, about the group project? I hope people have at least done enough where they have, say, something they can turn into me by Thursday. I hope, because the thing is, of course, we're not dealing with the best situation for like getting together to work together on something like this. But if anyone was having any trouble on this, they should at least have had a chance to tell me about it. There are plenty of ways of getting in touch with me. Telephones, emails, anything where you can get online to a computer by your phone, or by what you have at work, or what you have in your household. Any way you can, you've got to get a hold of me to tell me what's going on. That's unfortunately that's still the kind of demand that we're putting on students right now. Because if you want to stay a student, say, then certain obligations, certain duties are still going to be expected from you to fulfill. And one of them is keeping in communication somehow with the instructor. Now, the unfortunate thing there is that it presumes that you have a regular or steady or reliable way of staying in touch virtually somehow. Not everyone has that. And some people have gotten in touch with me by phone, by email, and whatnot, saying, look, I can't be online all the time. So we'll find some kind of way to make it work out. And we have. Justin asks, oh, this is a good question. But not to say none of these are, not to say that there are good questions and bad questions here, but this is one I think is very interesting. And as to say the other ones are not interesting either. It's just this one's really getting me thinking. How long should the ethics final take to do in one sitting, roughly, so I know how much time to set aside? Very good question. I want to say that you should be able to get this done in the same amount of time that you would have if you were to come in to the classroom. It should still take enough time to do this as if you had come into the classroom with your notes, with the book, or whatever we would be using in class. Because with the final exam, if things were still as they were normally, you would be able to come in to the classroom with your book and do the final exam in an hour and 25 minutes. So I would say it should still just take as long as an hour and 25 minutes. Naturally, some people need more time to do these kind of things. But I try to have it set up so that, say, for the majority of the people in the class, they would only need an hour and 25 minutes to do the final exam. Now, there's a reason why I sent out the essay topics ahead of time. And that's so that if you want to have those, if you and I need more time to take tests than others for certain topics. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's nothing to be angry with yourself over. You just need to find the best way to game the system. And if you do need extra time, that's why I sent the essay questions early, so that you can have them already prepared by the time that you do the multiple choice questions that I'll be sending everyone this coming Thursday. All right, Justin says, all right, that makes sense. Well, thank you, Justin. Well, if you any other questions like that, that's a very, 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 very important question. Let's put it that way. Say that's a question that I think would be very. Aha! I found a way. I found a way of qualifying it. That is a question that I think would be of interest to everyone. Everyone's questions, of course, should be of interest to themselves, and they are important and valuable because of how they would help the person who asked them. But here's a question I think that other people would be interested in, that would that they might want to consider themselves beyond whatever their own kind of like interest or engagements are. All right. Okay. So anything else? Anything about, say, the Philosopher of Ethics project, or about the group project? Say, what to turn in and whatnot. Basically, I'd be looking at something like this. If you do not have the finished group project, soup to nuts, done, everything done, everything polished, everything completed, what I would hope to see would be kind of like, maybe very extensive notes, that you've actually kind of like have gone and tried to get like information on a certain kind of topic, that you've been brainstorming things to say about it, that you've been considering, say, different points of view. Say here's pro, here's con. Here's some person's argument. Here's how we might be able to argue against that argument. Maybe a list of resources. Those kind of things. That's a kind of like a very loose jumble that a more polished project can be transmuted out of. Get that into me. That's a B. That's a B right there. If all you have is a title, that's not enough for a B. That's just being unreasonable. That is just, say, not really turning in anything at all. A title is what? It's just a title. It could be say something that would be that could be anything. I'm looking at, say, something that would give me a better sense of what the project would be had you had more time, had you had say better access to each other. So I am looking to see something more than a title. Can't be just a title. I think that's not unfair. Given what I've said already about kind of, turning in what you have done, I think kind of like, that it's reasonable to suppose that it has to be something more than a title. Should I be as specific as I can be? Yes, but I don't think a title is going to do it. You need to have a little bit something more than that. But it doesn't have to be perfectly finished. It can be, say, notes. It can be brainstorming. It can be kind of like, just here's the material that we got to work on it. Send that in to me. It can be the notes. It can be the brainstorming. It can be, say, all the resources. That's more than a title. That's more than just a name. So if you can get that stuff into me, and like I said, it can be piecemeal. It can be just the brainstorming, or it can be just the notes, or it can be just, say, the various resources. That gives me a better sense of how the project could have been had you had more time, greater accessibility to each other, and so forth. That's a B. And if you get more of these things done, put tighter together, doesn't even have to be, say, completely perfect. I could still give an A on it. I could still give an A for that project. The B is a slight punishment. It's a slight punishment because, say, sometime during all of this time that we have been at home in lockdown and quarantine, some kind of attempt should have been made to try to get, say, these things, try to get, say, the groups talking to each other, the group members talking to each other. Some attempt should have been made at that. And if it was proving difficult, or if things were not coming together as quickly or as well as they could have, I should have been contacted. Someone should have been able to come over, should have been able to find a way to say to me, Professor McHugh, Dr. McHugh, we can't get this thing done on time, or we're not able to communicate with each other. No one's talking to each other. So the B would be a little bit of a punishment. A little bit of punishment for not being able to bring these things. However, because of the circumstances we're dealing with, say, it would be, look at this fly. This fly loves me. But it doesn't fly in my mouth like Marlon Brando on Apocalypse Now. Because of the circumstances we're dealing with, we shouldn't be so severe. We shouldn't be so severe. We have to be, understanding the fact to say that, who thinks to talk to the professor when they feel like shit? Who thinks to talking to the professor, say, when you feel like, life will never get back to any kind of enjoyable state again? Who thinks to talk to the professor when things are feeling as bad as that? And I know it's been as bad as that for some of you guys. This is not an easy thing to deal with, the situation that we're in right now. So while there needs to be a little bit of a punishment right there, I think it's as much as should be given these circumstances. We have to take in many mitigating factors right here, and the biggest factor is that this is a situation almost engineered to make people unmotivated, unfocused, and just disinclined to do this kind of stuff. So I get it. All right, but that's as much punishment as should be given. It's as much of a penalty as should be meted out for this. Is to not get an A for the end of the semester project. But a B is better than nothing. A B is much better than nothing. And if you have a B already, that plus your group project plus your final exam could still bring it up to an A. Okay, Tim's got a question. Let's Tim say here. I need to put my glasses back on. You mentioned this already, but just want to double check. Will the project be due the morning of the 21st or just before midnight? Just before midnight. Yeah. Any time on the 21st. And if you need a little bit more time, just let me know. And very, very happy to be accommodating on this. So yeah, if you need just a little bit more time on that, that's fine. So anytime before midnight. Pardon me just once, I got to go blow my nose. Sorry for the noise. I don't know any other way to blow my nose. Got me into a lot of trouble when I was in middle school. People thought I was just trying to be disruptive. So no, it's the only way I know how to blow my nose. Okay, so very good. Yeah. So anytime before midnight, you can just turn it in, and that means anytime. Even now, if you've got it as done as you think that you can get it done, you can turn it in now. It'll be fine. Everything will be fine. Everything will be delicious. Okay, so anyone else have some questions? End of the semester stuff. I guess I should take this as an opportunity to kind of like give my closing lectures for ethics and for critical thinking. This should be the where I kind of bring some summarization to the topics that we have been covering, and also giving indications of where things should be going from here. Because needless to say, even if the coronavirus never hit us and things had gone on as scheduled, it would be ridiculous for me to pretend that we have covered everything that could be covered for either class. What we are doing is kind of preparing you to go ahead, taking further classes, but more importantly, much more importantly than being prepared for just the next class, for the next stage in the topic. More important than that is to get a kind of indication of where you could go on your own research, on your own meditations on these topics, on your own self-development. So I just want to say a little bit of things about that. Just a little bit of things about that for the ethics course and the critical thinking course. And if any of you still have any kind of questions for me, questions about, say, about the course, about the topics, about where to go next, what to read next, what to take next, about, say, other topics in philosophy, other topics in logic, and so on, or any question at all about end of the semester stuff, type it in and I will answer it. Okay, so let me just go off a little bit from on ways in which we can wrap up the ethics course. Okay, so for our ethics course, we were not even able to do as much of a survey of topics as I had originally planned. We had 2 more to go. We were going to be doing. Oh, say the breeze is really coming in right now, isn't it? Let's close this. We were scheduled to do Aristotelian ethics and also existentialist ethics. And I want to talk a little bit about, say, what I would have said had we done existentialist ethics, because it brings things back into kind of a focus about, say, why we should even be engaged in this topic of ethics, about, say, what it is that I should do. Okay, Gabriel's got a question for the paragraphs for the project. Let's say that if you had the whole thing done, if you had the whole thing soup to nuts done, that should be kind of like, 5 or more big paragraphs. 5 or more big paragraphs if you got the whole thing done. And say, let me check the page number, because it's not so much paragraphs, it's page number. That if you have the whole thing done, let's see here. Okay, all right, group project. If you have the whole thing done for the group project, it wouldn't be about paragraphs. It would be about the number of pages that you had completed. So let me just double check what that would be if you had the whole thing done, and then I'll tell you, say, kind of like minimally what I would hope to see if you were not able to get the whole thing done. Okay. Because certainly it would no longer be about page numbers if you were not able to complete the project. Okay. All right. So if you finish the project, if the thing is finished in the way and the along the lines of which I had planned, say it has to be no less than 3 pages and no more than 8 pages. Okay, so that's the page range if you finish the project. Now, if you're not able to get at least 3 pages, I want to see maybe 2 paragraphs. 2 big paragraphs, like 5 or more sentences for each. I think minimally that would give me a sense of where the project could have gone. And in those paragraphs, I want to see that that you are kind of like, and it's not just kind of like it's not just kind of like a long preamble. Like, many people find the topic of police brutality to be very interesting, and we need to consider, say, whether this is indeed an interesting project. That spinning your wheels like that. That's not going to be say something I want to see. I would want to see that there was, say, kind of like someone bringing in some numbers, like how often does this happen? How often does, say, reported cases of police brutality happen? I want to get a kind of like sense of where the project would have gone with it. So, Tim, this would be for the group project for critical thinking. That's what we're talking about right now. Gabriel is in our critical thinking class. Okay, so that's a critical thinking topic. Okay, so for critical thinking, say what I would want to kind of like minimally see for like written stuff, 2 paragraphs. 2 paragraphs that is not just preamble. It's not just perorations. It is actually giving me a kind of sense of what the project would have been about, and that, say, someone was putting in the time and the research to see what could be said about the project. Okay, I think that's a reasonable demand, is 2 paragraphs. If you're not able to get it finished, say, if you're not able to get even a page done, 2 paragraphs. Now, for the Philosopher of Ethics project, because since Tim is asking, let's talk about that too. Let me pull up what the minimum page amount would have been for the written project. Okay. So for the Philosopher of Ethics project, let's take a look at that. Okay, now correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I didn't. Yeah. Okay. So it's a 5-page minimum for the ethics course, for the Philosopher of Ethics course. Okay. So I didn't change that. Okay. So if you're not able to get that done, say what would I want to see? I would say at least a page. At least an entire page is what I would like to see. Now, you might not even be able to get that much completed, but just like the critical thinking course, I want to see that you had some kind of idea of where to take the project. Some kind of indication. So let's say, getting close to a page. Getting close to a page done. Like I said, turn in what you got. Even if even if it doesn't meet what I was just talking about, maybe you don't have the 2 paragraphs done. Maybe you have got like one good paragraph that would give me a kind of indication of what the project would have been for the critical thinking group project course. Maybe you don't have a page done for the philosopher of ethics project, but still what you have there is giving a good sense of what the project could have been. Turn it in. Like I said, turn in what you have, as long as it's more than a title. If it's more than a title, what could I have done? Turn in what you have. Do you have only just a title right now? Well, type in a few sentences. Turn it in. See what you get. It might be a great sentence. It might be a great couple of sentences. Yeah, this is where I have to be kind of like, not only kind of like a little loose with my own rules, but also, I've got to kind of like, judge things on a case-by-case basis. Okay. All right, Tim says, that takes a weight off me. I'm going to try to complete as much as possible, but you're going to be less stressed. That's the important thing. Turn in what you have, even if, I just said to Tim, at least a page. But even if you're not able to get that done, turn in what you have, see what you get. Like I said, you turn in something. Turn in something. You'll get at least a B. Alex says, hi, Professor. How am I doing? How am I doing? I am doing very well. Thank you very much. We're just wrapping things up, end of the semester stuff, answering any questions that anyone might have about the final exam, about the final projects, about grades, anything like that. I'm also doing a little bit of wrapping the semester up lectures right now for this for the stream. Okay, so if you have any questions at all about, say, what needs to be done, what can you get done, what should you get done, or anything like that. When will I be making the exam available? Tomorrow. The scheduled date for the final exam is Thursday, but I'm going to make the exam available tomorrow. And you will have until Friday, 11:59 p.m. So that's a minute before Saturday. A minute before Friday turns into Saturday to turn in the final exam. Now, someone asked an excellent question earlier. Say, how long can you expect? How much time would you expect to need to do the final exam? And my answer is that, say, for the majority of students in our class, no more than an hour, 25 minutes. You might take less time to do it. You might get it done like that. You might need the full hour 25. You might need more than an hour and 25 minutes. But I would say, on average, we're looking at, say, a top time of hour 25 minutes to do the final exam. So this will be made available tomorrow. It will be on Canvas, and it will be emailed to everyone, just like the midterm. It'll be on Canvas, and it will be sent out to everyone. And then you email me the answers. Email the answers to me. Get it into me before 11:59 p.m. Friday. Okay, so that's a few days. You'll have to do it. And you should already have the essay topics. I sent out the essay topics for the final exam with the study guide for the final exam last Friday. Or was it Thursday? Either Thursday or Friday, whenever I sent it out. When I sent these things out, it's also available on Canvas. But these things are already available right now with the essay topics. You can have those things prepared already for when you do the final exam. You can have it outlined, you can have the whole thing written out. It's not like I'm there looking over your shoulder seeing what you're doing. Okay. All right, so they will be made available tomorrow. I'll have them written today, and I will send them out as soon as I wake up tomorrow morning. So they will be available tomorrow, first thing when I wake up, and I generally wake up around 8 p.m. Okay. All right, so we're looking anywhere between say 8 and 9 a.m. Did I say 8 p.m.? I meant 8 a.m. Okay, so anytime between say 8 and 9 a.m. tomorrow morning, expect to see say the final exam in your inbox, and it will also be available on Canvas. Okay, so I'm gonna start doing kind of like my closing lectures, but like I said, anytime you've got questions about anything at all, just type them into the chat stream and I will answer them. Okay, so back what I was talking about, say, with the ethics course. So the whole thing that we have been concerned with in the ethics course is the question of what should I do? What should I do? The idea is that what you do has value. That you are not here in this world, just doing things of no consequence, doing things of no value, doing things of no importance. What you do has importance. Your life has importance. Your life has not only just importance to yourself, but also to others. Is life itself important? I'm going to say yes. I'm going to say yes, and not just because, say, we can't have, that you need life around in order for there to be a kind of like a sense of importance. I think that, say, when you talk about, say, there being kind of like any sort of like effectiveness in the world, then you are talking about, say, some kind of importance and some kind of value in what happens in the world. If things can only have value if there are life around to appreciate them, then say things that are helpful for the development and for the emergence of life, evolutionarily speaking, is a value for that. But the world existence can have value even without these kinds of things as we normally think them. If we think about, say, of everything in the world has being something along the lines of having a kind of purposefulness, that, say, something does something for the sake of something. You don't need to be a conscious creature for that. You don't need to be consciously aware of what's happening in order to feel, say, something as being valuable. Say there's a difference between valuation and evaluation. Evaluation is the conscious awareness of something, where you can be able to make yourself understand, say, of why, say, something might be better than something else. We don't always have this. We don't even think about these things normally. We often do, but we don't all the time. So, you can just have a kind of unreflective, unarticulated sense of something being better or something being worse, of something being enjoyable and something not being enjoyable. It's just an immediate sense of something like that. Say that's valuation. And you don't need to be, say, something that has the ability to evaluate, to be able to be consciously aware of why, say, something is better or worse than, say, something else, in order for you to have these kinds of feelings. So these things are there. These things are there in the world, but we do have kind of like the ability to question, say, of why one thing would be better or one thing would be worse than something else. So we are able to make evaluations, and that's what you need to do in ethics, is you need to be able to evaluate what we do and evaluate why something is a better action than something else, why something is a bad thing to do. Now, we've gone through a lot of different ways of trying to find a basis for this kind of evaluation. We've looked at things like pleasure, say whether something gives more pleasure or more pain for the utilitarians. We've looked at, say, when it comes to, say, the cultural relativists, say, all of these things are just kind of like a matter of how our language, how our culture makes sense of these things, makes sense of even being able to talk about, say, our ability to feel things as being better or worse would ultimately be a cultural matter for the cultural relativist. So it might be something that could be reduced culture, but I think we've seen very good reasons as to why that's not likely to be a final point to arrive on for our sense of what is good, what is bad, what is better, what is worse. And we also looked at Kant. Say for Kant, say it's not a matter of whether it is enjoyable or has, say, good beneficial effects coming from it. It's about, say, whether you have actually done your duty according to an objective universal standard. That you've actually have been able to put your own self aside in order to do what you need to do according to truth as we're able to understand it, given the structure of practical reason. So we have found many bases to answer the question and say, what is it that I'm supposed to do? Why is something good? Why is something bad? What is the right one? Well, as I think you can expect, I'm not going to tell you what it is. But I do kind of want to give you a sense that there are ways of discovering which one is the more satisfying answer, not just philosophically, but also, in the way in which we want to use philosophy as, say, not just something that is just, makes us feel clever, makes us feel good for understanding complex and abstract topics, but something that is ideally also supposed to give some kind of shape to our everyday lives. That it is supposed to help us better adjust to the problems before us and have a better sense of how to meet them, how to understand them, and how to resolve them, and why. Why we should be trying to do those kind of things. Why we should be trying to find the better and not the worse way through the problems that face us, through the challenges that face us. When we were looking through the Rachels, and you probably were able to tell, I was becoming less and less enamored with the Rachel's book as we went through it. As we were getting out of cultural relativism and subjectivism and egoism and whatnot, and into, say, other areas, I was finding them to be less and less satisfactory. But there's a reason. There's a reason why they become less and less satisfactory, and that is because that they sometimes reduce very complex things to very simple things. And one thing that I think that is very important is that there's an ease and a user friendliness that seems to come from reducing complex things down to simple things. But there's also a big risk too, that we might lose something very important. And I think that the Rachels do lose something very important when they try to make a complex situation or a complex philosophy simpler than it actually is. And I think, say, what is the way to go through these problems is to try to see how much you can understand the problem as richly as you can. Ultimately, it can't be so rich that you just go on endlessly in finding, say, new and new offshoots, new possibilities, and so forth. There has to be kind of like a cutting off point, and finding out where that cutting off point should be is one of the big challenges. It's one of the big challenges that face us, because we are dealing with a finite amount of time. So I think it has to be kind of like a matter of economical consideration right here. How much time do I have to think about this problem before I can make a decision about it that isn't too late? What is like a good likely amount of time? But in that time, how richly can I make the topic seem to me? How richly can I get into the various complexities of this topic before I make that decision? So it's it's not just one thing or another thing. It's not, say, just endless richness versus user-friendly simplicity. It has to be a combination of those two things. That is, I think, the best way of meeting the problem, so that we're able to get as much as we can out of it, but still do something, but still act. And that is what is going to kind of like bring me to like the final thing that I'll say in this course, is that we cannot not act. This is what we were going to talk about, say, when it came to existentialism. The existentialists follow Kant in a lot of ways. They also depart from Kant in a lot of ways, but here's a way in which they are in absolute agreement with Kant. Kant says to say, as far as we can understand ourselves, we can only understand ourselves as acting creatures, as agents that can do things. We cannot help but think of ourselves as having some kind of agency, some kind of moral autonomy, and that ultimately means responsibility. That we have responsibility for what we do. And even when we say, well, I'm just not going to decide, that itself is a decision. That itself is you saying what you're going to be doing, and that you have to take responsibility for that. That it is your responsibility to say, I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And even when you say, I'm not going to do anything at all, that's you saying that you're going to do something. So keep that in mind. You cannot help be a person doing things of significance in this world. You're doing things of significance for yourself and for others. And that the choice that you make will be a choice that you also make for other people. Because you're now going to be setting up a new situation for them to deal with. So the responsibility extends not just to yourself, but also extends to the responsibilities that other people have too. So I'm trying to give a sense of, we're not just all working like isolated little islands out there. As I said before, the way that the egoists, the ethical egoists and psychological egoists, think about each of us as persons is a little too simplistic. We're not just all kind of like, we don't just disappear into the group, but we cannot but act along with others. Say our individuality is an individuality with others. Say not only would our individuality kind of like, be empty without others, but insofar as I am an individual that acts, that does things, I'm an individual that acts and does things with others. And that would be true even if all life were to disappear except for yourself. Because whatever you do in your lonely little universe would be doing things that would have a kind of effect on the world. And that world can be a world in which other people might develop later on, maybe in a universe to come. That would still be, say, that would still be kind of like planting the seeds for what sort of world will come out of this one. In one way, shape, or form, it's still having kind of like an effect on the next world. Okay, so that's really what I want to end with the ethics course, with the sense to say that there are better ways to deal with the topic of ethics, of how to think about ethical problems, that it has to be a combination of economic simplicity and topic richness, topic complexity. It has to be a combination of those two things. It has to be, rich enough where we are not willfully making it simple for us to just make it something easy to deal with, because that can be disastrous. Not only just disastrous in its effects, but also just disastrous in just what we're trying to get out of it, which is a sense of what is the right and wrong thing to do. But also, that we have to have the consideration that we are finite creatures working with a finite amount of time, and that by endlessly stringing a topic on, a problem on, and doing nothing about it is still doing something, and is still possibly missing out on what needs to happen. So you got to find that point where it says, with the time given to me right now, here is the time to act. Here is the time to act, that I've got enough to work on for the sake of this immediate problem, and act on it. Because, point 2, you're always acting. You will always do things that have significance and that have value. Oh, Gabriel says he's got to go. He's got to go to his doctor's appointment. All right, take care, Gabriel. I hope everything turns out all right. All right, and be seeing you, and hope you have yourself a fantastic summer. All right, thank you so much, Gabriel. Thank you for everything you've done. Okay, all right. So that's what I got to say about ethics. You're all significant, and you're all valuable. And whether you want to think that in Kantian terms, or utilitarian terms, or ethical egoist terms, I leave that to you. The only thing that I hope to give you is kind of like a sense of the importance of the topic, that you have the ability to think about it on your own, and a little bit of direction, just a little bit of direction of how to do this on your own. I can't be the one to give you the answers. There's a long debate in philosophy as to whether you can actually be taught philosophy. Whether I can kind of like put the idea, put the thinking in you. Ultimately, you say it's something that that is dependent upon your own thinking, upon your own understanding, upon your own realizations of what is the right or the wrong way of doing things, or what is the better or worse way of working through a problem. Because it'll be you acting on it anyway, not me. Not me. I can't work you like puppets, nor should I. So ultimately, it is going to come up with what you are going to do and what you can do. Okay. So that's the ethics course. So let's talk a little bit about critical thinking. So like I was saying with the ethics course, we have to take in consideration the fact that we are living in a very complex world with many complex problems in it. So what can we do in this world? Well, we can, and we always do something that will have a kind of effect. And what we want to do is we want to find the best way to work through a problem that is going to give us that kind of richness of richness of understanding, where we're able to see that we are dealing with something that is very complex, that is very rich, but also that we can still find that point of saying, okay, here's what I need to know in order to act, in order to move on to the next stage. Because we can't just explore things endlessly when it comes to, say, doing something. We have to draw that line and say, okay, here's enough. Now, what we looked at in our class are various ways in which we can see of how to appropriately get information in order to understand the rich complexity of a topic. That if the topic is police brutality. We've been able to see, say, of what should count as pertinent and valuable arguments to help us better understand the topic. That you can't be satisfied. You can't be satisfied with just using fallacious arguments to help build the case, to help build your understanding. It can help you build an understanding of the people using the fallacious arguments. If you try to kind of like explore, say, why they're making these kinds of associations or connections and ideas anyway. But we say, but beyond that, we can also see of why we can't include them in a way to better understand the topic at hand, because they're claiming to show how certain ideas, certain topics have to be connected together. But we can see why they can't be connected that kind of way. The best we can do is see of why people would hold those kinds of ways of thinking about things, because that should be included as well. And we did that when we looked at biases. We did that when we looked at biases because we can see why emotions and why emotional attachment to things play such a big role in the way we do things, in the way in which we select one way of looking at things as being better than another way of looking at things. Now, that's not to say, and I will never say this, that emotions should be taken away. As if they could have been done, as if you could do that anyway. But say it's not like emotions don't give, say, positive things anyway. But we can see how it can be misused. We can see how emotions can seem to give us, say, the right, logically defended conclusion, but we can see that it's only a feeling. We can see it's the same kind of feeling that we get when we have a dream, and we dream that we wrote a great song. And if we remember that song when we wake up, you say, that song sucked. It's because we weren't actually making the kind of connections we would, say, using our conscious judgment. Oh, Alex says, say Alex has got a paper to finish for another class. Hope you have a great summer and a great day. Bye, Professor. Well, thank you very much, Alex. And thank you so much for being part of the chat. And thank you so much for being part of our class. I hope you have a very good summer as well. And all the very, very, very best of luck with that. Okay, so back to talking about, say, critical thinking. All right, now, so we can see that there are better and worse ways of going about these kinds of problems. Now let's talk a little bit more about the kinds of ways in which we can be manipulated, because like I said, emotions play a major role in our lives. And people haven't understood this. People understand, say, how really, really effective it is in our thinking to emotionally manipulate us, to try to get us to see things, believe things a certain way because of the way in which they were able to appeal to us, just by our sometimes very delicate feelings. And sometimes it is just a matter of kind of like, wanting to get a person riled up so they can't think straight. We see this happening quite often today. Quite often today, the goal is to keep people confused. The goal is to keep people running around, not knowing which way to turn. That is a powerful, powerful political tool. Powerful, powerful political tool to keep people confused. So watch out for some kind of sign that that someone may be saying something that seems to be kind of like, nailing their colors to the mast, and saying something outrageous, it may be just to get you angry and disengaged, distracted from what is really happening. Had the class gone on normally, I would have shown a lot more videos of magicians. Misdirection. Misdirection is the name of the game when it comes to magic. To keep your eye and to keep your ear, and most of all, to keep your mind focused on what the magician wants you to focus on. And sometimes the magician wants to keep your focus going in several different directions at once. So you can't really concentrate. You can't really concentrate, that you can't really make up your mind. That is what the magician wants to do, so that you can't see what they're actually doing. So keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, that say a lot of people are going to try to do things like that. So hopefully what we've given you in critical thinking are just a few tools so that you are not manipulated. We've looked at fallacies, a lot of fallacies, because fallacies sound quite often thinking. But as we saw, kind of like making connections like the way we're making connections like dreams, or making connections like arcs in art, where it just feels like there are those connections there when in fact there are none. None really. So hopefully we've given you a few tools in which you can use on your own to make better decisions, and to not be manipulated and not be confused by people who want to keep you confused, who want to keep you running around like chickens with their heads cut off. Okay, so I think I'll wrap up what I want to say about critical thinking. Peter's son is here. Hello, Peter. I just wanted to say thanks for all your hard work. Sorry I haven't been able to make these chats, but it's been a rough couple of months for me, like many others. Anyway, I hope you and everyone else is doing well, and I hope we can get through this together. Well, thank you, Peter. I think, I really do appreciate you coming by to say that, because I have got a great deal of optimism. A great deal of optimism when it comes to, say, situations like this. Because first of all, this is not nearly as bad as other things that we've had to face in our history as a species. And second of all, we look around us and you can see people doing what they should be doing. Practicing social distancing, trying to do their best to make this a manageable situation for them without endangering others. I think on the whole, we're doing a pretty damn good job. And like I said in my last chat, even if we do break down, we did this longer and better than I think that many of us expected us to. That's reason for hope. I think that's a very good positive thing, that many people here, many people who have not faced any kind of problems like this before. Many people in the world have already gone through problems like this before regularly. For many people here in the US, this is the first time they've had to deal with this, and they're still doing a better job than many people expected them to. So I think that's a good reason to be hopeful about it. And also, another good reason to be hopeful is because we never know the future. The future is never something we can be certain about. The future can be better and the future can be worse, but it's never going to be the future we expect. In the important particulars, it is never the future we expect. It is always going to be the future that we cannot anticipate. And that's really the only thing we can anticipate about it, I would say. So I think we're going to be fine. And even if we do, even if we're not fine, I think we on the whole did a much better job than we thought that we did. So I think that's a good reason to applaud us. We did better than we thought we would, and who knows, we might still carry on better than we ever expected to into the future. So I think we are going to get through this together. By the way, kind of like going back to critical thinking, when I was talking about, say, how emotions are not unimportant, or they're not something we should get rid of. Consider how important hope is. Consider how important having a kind of hopeful attitude is. Now, here's where you're saying, I don't know the future, but here are the kind of possibilities that I think should be realized about the future, that it should be a future where we are conscientious and kind and considerate, and will do things for the sake of others and not to harm others, or for the sake of, say, the good for other people and not just the good for myself, the good that I feel for my own selfish needs. So if you kind of like look at things and say, these are things that we can do, these are things that can be accomplished, that we do have the power in us to realize these possibilities. Say that is going to, likely, because again, we don't know the future, likely make it easier for these things to be realized. Say attitude is not everything, but attitude is a big thing. Attitude can't make viruses go away, but attitude can make it so that we can better meet the problem and effectively deal with it. So, have hope. Have hope. It certainly will make things easier to deal with than otherwise. For us collectively, certainly. Okay. So, anyone have any other questions? Any other thing that we could talk about? Any questions at all? Anyone in the chat not say hello yet? Not ask a question yet? Here's a chance to do it. So I think we've wrapped things here pretty nicely. Ending on a hopeful note. Now, does that mean that I think the problems are just going to go away? No. But I think that we can meet those problems better if we have hope than if we have no hope. If we have no hope, why bother? If you have no expectation at all that things can be different, that things can be better and not worse, what are you even trying for? And again, like I said, you cannot help but try for something. Even if you're a pessimist and actually believe that things can't get any better, say that's the choice that you made. That's the judgment about the future that you made, that you chose, and you're deciding to act on. Justin asks, what will I be teaching in the fall? I will be teaching 2 critical thinking courses, and I will be teaching a introduction to philosophy course. So this is where kind of like, unlike the ethics course, we looked at, say, many different philosophers, many different philosophies, but was always finally coming back to the question of what is it that I should be doing? What is the difference between right and wrong? The ethical questions and values. Say, in an introduction to philosophy, I will be talking about those things, but I will also be focusing on, say, questions of knowledge, questions about reality, questions about, say, how can we, say, accept one argument as better than another argument? Justin says, "Oh darn, I've already taken those." Oh, that make me feel. That's a very nice thing for you to say, Justin. That made me think that maybe you wanted to take a class with me again. That's very nice of you. That's what I inferred from what you were saying anyway. So my apologies if I misinterpreted it. But say as an adjunct, as a part-time professor, they don't have that much in the ways of a variety of classes for me to teach. I have pretty much just intro to philosophy, introduction to ethics, critical thinking, and logic. Those are the classes I normally get because I teach philosophy. I don't teach religious studies. Although I'd like to. That'd be nice. I would love it if I could get a full-time position over at Cal State, over at Fulton College. I would love it if I could get a full-time position over at Fulton College. Then I would be teaching a wider variety of courses like history of philosophy, Say I could direct independent studies and so forth. That'll be great. So we'll see down the road. Maybe I'll get a full-time position over there. Fingers crossed. I certainly will try. To get a full-time position over there, and then I can teach more classes. All right. In the meantime, Justin, anytime that you have any kind of like idea that you want to talk about, or a philosopher that you want to talk about, or a topic you want to talk about, or if you just kind of like want to shoot the breeze a little bit, very, very happy to do that. Just send me an email and we'll get something started. Okay. I would have there were any I've not already taken. C'est la vie. Such is life, and in truth, say, although as I said, we should have a hopeful attitude. We should also kind of like accept certain things that that are a little beyond our immediate power to change. We actually don't know, say, how much we can never really know, say, how much, say, what we can do can change what's around us, which I think is also a very hopeful idea. But some things are not worth our time, our energy, and just our inclination to worry over, and we got to pass on to say something else. So Justin's quite right. C'est la vie. We got it. Such is life. We've got to move on to other things sometimes. Not as my mother will often says. Some things are not the hills to die on. Some things are the hills to die on. Taking classes with me is not the hill to die on. So Justin's moving on, as well he should. Okay, well, speaking of moving on, I think it's time for us to shuffle off now, take care of our other courses. I will be getting the final exams for ethics and the final exams for critical thinking sent out to you guys tomorrow morning between 8 and 9 a.m. And you will have until Friday, 11:59 p.m. to finish them. And of course, there are also the end of the semester projects that are going to be due on Thursday. So if anything comes up, let me know. I wish you all a very, very good day. And thank you, Justin. I hope you have a great summer too, Justin. And I hope you all have a very, very good summer. Stay safe, stay well, and I'll be seeing you.